Today, we're going to be doing a mega Q&A. We're going to be reiterating on some of the questions you asked last time and some new questions you asked this time. Let's get at it. Hey guys, welcome back to Aaron's Thing, and today we're doing the mega Q&A. In case you haven't figured it out yet by reading the title of this video and the intro, just in case there's some people out there that still don't get it. Now, today, we're going to be reiterating on some of the questions asked last time because apparently I wasn't too clear with some of the questions, and I in turn got more questions based on these questions. So let's get started. The first question is, how can you change from a classical to a jazz sound? Well, first off, everyone's sound is different, and it solely depends on what you practice. If you're not practicing long tones, overtones, arpeggios, scales, you're probably not going to get the sound you want. So, like I said, everyone's sound is different. Now, one of the questions that come from this is about long tones. What are long tones, and what do they do? Now, a long tone is a long series of you playing a single note. They can be whole notes, they can be tied whole notes, usually at a slow tempo, and what they do is they help your dynamic range, your stability, and your sound on a particular note. Now, some notes are more out of tune than others, like C sharp, for example, on alto, tenor, bari, soprano. C sharp on any saxophone is going to sound always out of tune. So what you can do is you can play long tones on that note, and it'll help you with stability, and it'll help you sound better. So the longer you play that note, you start at a soft dynamic level like piano, and you work your way up to a high dynamic level like forte, and in between, it's going to improve your dynamic level and your tone on that particular note. Now, the best way to get the sound you want is to listen to someone who has a sound close to what your vision is. Like, for example, mine is Kenny G, because he can move his fingers fast, and he can also produce a good sound on 3 of the main types of saxophones. So play along with sax players that you feel is close to your vision, and what I mean is find music online to play along with. Like, I know that there is a score online for Glenn Miller, In the Mood, that I've been practicing. There's also one with Gerald Albright, who plays Walker's Theme. So play along, find some stuff on YouTube, find some stuff on MuseScore, and practice along with it. The next question is there a tip for getting rid of a spitty sound? First off, it's not spit, it's condensation, and it's caused by when the warm air of your breath going through the horn meets the cold interior of the saxophone. The best way to get rid of that is to practice blowing cold air, fast cold air. Now, you can still blow fast cold air and get a soft dynamic level. Some mouthpieces are better at it than others. That's another point. Some mouthpieces are better at it than others. And to get rid of the spitty sounds, simply suck the condensation out of the mouthpiece. It's not spit. I know it sounds disgusting, but sometimes you got to do that. One of the best kept secrets is to clean your mouthpiece and clean your sax and swab it out. It's simple to do. You do it after every time you play, and it'll keep the horn and keep the mouthpiece in top running condition for years to come. Now, like I said, just suck the spit out. I know it sounds disgusting, or condensation. Suck the condensation out. It sounds disgusting, especially if you don't keep your mouthpiece clean. Now, when you clean your mouthpiece, there is a video posted down below on how to clean your saxophone and clean your mouthpiece. I do recommend you invest in mouthpiece savers, neck savers, and pad savers, bell savers. It'll run you about $50 for the entire set, but they're well worth it. A good pad saver, neck saver, bell saver, mouthpiece saver, whatever, will suck up the rest of the condensation your swabs don't get out. Now, it is not a replacement for swabbing out your horn. You can't just put the pad saver in and expect it to work overnight. You'll still have residue on your saxophone. So the best thing to do is to keep it well swabbed out, well cleaned, and then put the pad savers in. Next question, are Chinese saxophones worth it? Although, like I said before, you do risk it being broken upon arrival. If you're looking for a good deal on a cheap student horn, I would say yes. I watched a video from this guy whose name is Jay Metcalf, and he runs a channel on YouTube called Better Sax. And I showed it to several people. He bought a cheap alto, an Amazon Special alto, an Amazon Special soprano, and an Amazon Special tenor, all from the same brand. I believe the brand was Slade or something like that. And when he got his tenor sax, he opened the bag up, because it comes, generally all new saxophones, depending on make and model, come in a white bag. When he opened up the bag, the G-sharp key fell off. So you do risk it being broke upon arrival. Now, second, it is worth it if you're looking for a cheap disposable horn that you can, just play around with. If you're practicing on working on your horn, as in fixing it, it's a great horn to work on because you're not spending a lot of money and you're not buying something super valuable and tearing it up. But if you plan on playing it, doing gigs with it, just something to start out with, if you're new to playing saxophone, always upgrade the case with it so it doesn't move around during travel and break the horn. I've noticed I got two cheap Chinese saxophones. One was a Glory, one was a brand called Golden Lit or something like that. I got one off Amazon brand new, and I got the other one off eBay. Both saxophones move around in the case. They moved around in the case. And you can shake the case and feel the saxophone moving around in it, and it's not good for it. The keys are going to get bent, something's going to get bent, something's going to get broken. Now, always note, if you buy a cheap Chinese saxophone, if you buy it off Amazon, chances are it won't come with a warranty. And if it does, I would highly recommend you take that warranty. Otherwise, you'll just be stuck with it after 30 days if you don't return it. A note, you won't be able to take it to a repair technician due to the fact that they do not make parts for these Chinese saxophones. So if a spring breaks, a rod breaks, or you have a key broke off, they're not going to be able to replace it. You'll be lucky if they have a universal part that'll fit for it. So just take that into consideration when you're buying these cheap horns, is that you really won't be able to have it fixed. Now, they can do tune-ups on it and everything like that, but, they're not going to be able to replace any parts. Next question is, could I be buying a knockoff Chinese saxophone? If it seems too good to be true, probably. I've seen online a Selmer Mark VI saxophone for under $500, brand new. Now, somebody posted on this forum that said that they found a Selmer Mark VI for under $500 on a Chinese wholesale website. Could it be too good to be true? Unfortunately, yes, it is. You're not gonna get a good quality horn for under $500. Now, it may work, but it's not going to be good quality. So that brings to the question: are they of good quality? Probably not. And considering they ship overseas, if it's not from a reputable brand, a brand you've heard of, it's probably too good to be true. Always buy from a reputable dealer, and if it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Next question is, when is the right time to upgrade a saxophone or clarinet mouthpiece? It really just depends on what you are trying to do and achieve sound-wise. If you have a mouthpiece that gets a good seal with your reed and you are comfortable on it, there is no rush to get a new one. You're better off working with what you have than breaking the bank on a new one. There is no amount of money that will improve your sound, only the time and effort you put in to change it. So, like I said, if you're not practicing what you need to be practicing, which is long tones, overtones, you really only need to be practicing overtones, technically speaking, if you're trying to hit the altissimo range. But honestly, you can't buy good sound. You could have the best saxophone in the world, the best gear in the world, the most expensive gear, the best mouthpiece, the best reeds, and still get a crappy sound. So it solely depends on the work you're willing to put into playing. Next question, when should you expose yourself to other saxophones? I got this question on clarinet too. When should I switch to bass clarinet? I'm looking at it, and I really want to switch because I like the deep dark tone, but I'm not too sure I'm ready. Focus on your goals. Don't switch unless you feel comfortable. If you don't feel ready to switch, don't. Each sax and each clarinet is a different beast sound-wise. Do what feels right. So each saxophone, the bigger and smaller you get, requires more air and a different embouchure. So, for example, my alto that's hanging on the wall right here is going to take a smaller embouchure than a tenor sax, but it's going to take less air to reach the low notes than it would the tenor sax. The tenor sax is longer and is going to take a lot more air to reach those low notes. Plus, they sound different. So it's completely different beast sound-wise. So do what you feel is right. If you're just playing to play around, then I would say switch when you want. But if you're trying to master something, don't switch until you think you've mastered it. Next question. Now, these are the new questions. How important is altissimo? In reality, it's pretty far down on the list of things to learn on saxophone. Before you jump into altissimo, you first need to be able to play the full range of your horn comfortably with good sound and good air support. You also need to be able to play overtones well in the low B flat, C, and D range before you start on altissimo. This is where your overtones come into play. Practicing your overtones are going to help you reach that altissimo level on your saxophone. If you just jump straight into altissimo and you've been playing for maybe 2 years, if that's something you want to do, then do it, by all means. But don't feel obligated to do it that soon. It really just solely depends on what you're wanting to do. If you feel you need to do altissimo, then do it. But like I said, it's not a necessity on things to learn. If you've been playing for 2.5 years, like this guy who messaged me, it's not on the list of things to learn. You still have a lot to learn. You probably don't have a good sound on the full range of your horn, and that's where long tones come into play. Next question. I have a reed that is a 2.5 that squeaks, but a 3 is too strong for me. What size reed do you recommend? Okay. Always check the seal between the reed and the mouthpiece. Before we get started, always check the seal of the mouthpiece. Squeaks are generally caused by lack of seal, and a dry reed will also squeak. So I'm going to demonstrate the proper way to check the seal on your mouthpiece. I'm also going to demonstrate putting the reed on the mouthpiece. Now, everybody has their own way of doing it, but there is several different right ways to do this. First, take your ligature off. You should have just your mouthpiece. Loosen your ligature. Take your reed and place it on the mouthpiece. With the big side facing down, the biggest side facing down, put your ligature on your mouthpiece. Next, make sure the tip of your reed is just slightly above, just like that. Make sure it's just slightly above the top of your mouthpiece. Make sure it's also centered. Now tighten your ligature down just enough to hold the reed on without moving. Don't over tighten it. Just enough to where it'll hold the reed on and not move. Now, to check the seal of your mouthpiece, place the mouthpiece in your mouth, put your hand over it like this, and suck. If you didn't hear that, it made a popping sound. I'll do it one more time. It should make that popping sound when you take your mouth off the reed. That means it's getting a good seal. So, it doesn't necessarily have to do with the size of the reed. It really has to do with the seal and a dry reed. Now, if you're using a synthetic reed, obviously you don't have to wet your reed. If you're using a cane reed, which I have here, this is something that most people aren't taught. You want to wet the table of the reed, which is this part right here. This is the table. Wet it for a solid minute or so. And then you also want to wet the back of the reed. That part right there. You want to wet it too. That gets the entire reed wet, and it helps with the vibrations of the reed. Oh, I'm just dropping things off my desk today. Next question. Are playing long tones the way to a consistent playing in the low register? You need a consistent, well-supported airstream to play in the low register. Allow the reed to vibrate to help reach the low notes. Do not put too much pressure on the reed. Let the air do the work, and always check the seal on your pads. Now, you can do that by buying what's called a leak light. This leak light, turn the lights off, and you put it down your saxophone, and you close all the pads, and it'll show you, with light, where the leaks are. Good technique and good airstream will overcome leaky pads. Don't always blame the horn. It's not always the horn's fault. If you're playing low notes and it's coming out sounding like wah, 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 it's probably the horn and you have a leak. So always check the leaks on your horn. And like I said, good technique and good airstream will overcome any leaky pads. Next question. Does lacquer actually make a difference on sound? Personally, I don't feel that there is much difference in a lacquered and an unlacquered horn. It does, however, make a difference on the price. Now, I have heard from some people that what the saxophone is actually made out of, whether it's made out of silver, brass, steel, whatever, does make a difference on how it sounds. But the lacquer on it really, in my opinion, doesn't make much of a difference. It does, like I said, however, make a difference on the price point of the horn. An unlacquered horn is generally going to be cheaper than a lacquered horn. Next question. What is the best sax in the world? I don't know who asked this question or why, but really, it's whatever works for you best. Choose something that fits your playing ability and always buy from a reputable dealer, like I've said 100 times over. It's really whatever works for you. Each saxophone is different. Each model is different. Each action on the saxophone is different. What the saxophone's made out of, how it looks, the bore openings on the neck, everything is spec'd differently. That's why there's different makes and models. It really just depends on what you're looking for in performance, where you're at in your playing ability, and what you want for aesthetics. So it solely depends on what you want. If you want a horn that looks good but plays like crap, then you should probably buy one of the Chinese knockoff saxophones, because they look really good, but as we have determined, they are not. If you're looking for something that doesn't look pretty and sounds okay, I'd probably recommend the Selmer Mark VI. If you're looking for a professional grade horn that sounds good and looks good, I would recommend the Yamaha Custom Z. Now the last question we have is, How do I play notes faster? Always keep your fingers and hands relaxed on your saxophone. Your saxophone matches your hand's natural position. So if you just relax your hand like that, it makes a C. That is the natural, relaxed position of your hands, and it fits perfectly on the saxophone. When Aldoff Sax invented the saxophone, that is what it was intended to do. So it matches your hand's natural, relaxed posture. Don't tense up and lift your fingers too far off the keys, otherwise you won't be able to get them down in time. Now we're running out of time on this Q&A, so we've asked a lot of questions, and we've touched base on some of the old questions that was asked in the first Q&A. I hope you guys got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and have a wonderful night.